Picture this. You are floating in the observation deck of an orbital station 40,000 kilometers above a small wet planet on the outer edge of an unremarkable spiral arm. Your four eyes are fixed on a long-range optical feed showing a green field cut through with low stone walls. It is raining. The rain has been falling for 6 hours and shows no sign of stopping. In the center of the field, a small group of bipedal mammals stands motionless around a rectangular hole in the ground. They have been standing there for 41 minutes. They are not speaking. They are not eating. They are not producing anything of measurable economic or biological value. They are simply standing in the cold rain, looking at a hole. This is your first assignment as a cultural observer third class. You were promised exotic worlds, savage rituals, dangerous customs to catalog and file. You were not promised this. You were not promised a wet planet where the dominant species voluntarily refuses to seek shelter from the weather. In the center of the small group stands an old female. Her covering layer is black. Her face covering is a kind of woven membrane pulled forward to obscure her features. She is holding a single cut flower. The flower is white. It is dying in her hand, but she does not seem to know this, or she knows and does not care. In front of her, 6 male humans lift a long polished container made from a once living plant. The container has metal fittings. Inside the container is a dead human. The container costs the equivalent of 3 months of the dead human's lifetime earnings. The humans lower the container into the hole using ropes. They do this slowly. They do this with what appears to be enormous physical care, even though the occupant cannot feel anything. This is the strange object. We always picture them as a chaotic, emotionally unstable species, useful for labor, dangerous in war, but ultimately primitive. They do not bury their dead. They plant them. They place the body in the soil as if expecting it to grow into something. It is called a casket. Some of them call it a coffin. The hole is called a grave. The grave will be marked with a slab of cut stone bearing the name of the occupant. The stone is designed to last for at least 400 Earth years. The dead human's name was Declan O'Sullivan. He was a retired lighthouse keeper. He died 63 hours ago of a routine cardiac failure. The Galactic Council has dispatched me to answer a single question. Why does a species that has discovered antimatter propulsion, gene editing, and quantum communication still place its dead in the dirt, and then refuse to leave the dirt for over an hour in the rain? The answer will eventually break the Council. Part 2. If you have just joined this transmission from another quadrant, allow me to summarize the situation before continuing. I would ask you to acknowledge receipt of this transmission and indicate your sector of origin so that the anthropological index can properly distribute findings. I would also gently remind delegates that the events I am about to describe have already destabilized 3 council subcommittees, and any cultural observer wishing to continue their career is advised to consume this report only in stable emotional regulation conditions. The Galactic Council has been studying humans for 140 Earth years. In that time, we have classified them as a Tier 4 civilization, capable of basic interstellar communication but emotionally and politically unfit for full membership. The most common observation in our literature is that humans are loud, inefficient, sentimental, and slow to adapt. We assumed these were weaknesses. We were wrong about every single one of them. The other species of the Council handle death with the calm efficiency of any other administrative process. My own species, the Vethkoran, biologically erase the memory of the deceased within 6 hours of their passing. It is an evolved survival trait. A grieving Vethkoran cannot hunt, cannot mate, cannot defend the nest. So evolution removed the problem. We forget. We do not even remember that we have forgotten. Our dead simply cease to occupy any mental space. The Massey's delegates, who exist as ambulatory gas clouds, disperse the molecules of their deceased back into the planetary atmosphere within minutes. There is no body. There is no grave. There is only the slow dilution of a person into the wind. The insectoid Zeth hive reassigns the function of the dead worker to another body within the same shift. There is no ceremony because there is no individual. Death is a clerical correction. So how did the only species in the known galaxy that refuses to forget its dead become the species that the Council could not categorize? How did the smallest, wettest, most sentimental civilization in our records sit down quietly and conquer the one enemy that every empire before them surrendered to without a fight? That enemy is time, and to understand how humans defeated it, we must first understand how monstrously inefficient their methods appear from the outside. Stay with me. Acknowledge this transmission. The next sections will require you to think in ways our species has spent 2 million years evolving to avoid. Part 3. Forget the sterile recycling chambers of the Mossy's homeworld. Forget the immediate hive reassignment protocols of the Zeth. Step right into the wet green field in a region of Earth called County Kerry, on the western coast of an island called Ireland. In almost every other civilization in our records, the disposal of the dead is treated as a logistics problem. The body is an object. The object must be removed. The most advanced civilizations in the Council achieve this in under 90 seconds. The Tesserae, an aquatic species, simply allow their dead to drift into the lower currents where bottom feeders complete the cycle. The Vorth, who live in the upper atmosphere of a gas giant, release their dead into the storm bands. The body is reabsorbed by the planet within an hour. No ceremony, no witnesses, no record kept. The Council assumed humans would eventually progress to such a system. We have been waiting 140 years for them to develop it. They have not. They have, if anything, become more elaborate in their refusal. Humans operate completely differently. They do not solve the logistics problem. They invent new problems and add them on top. They build large parks specifically to hold their dead. They carve names into stone. They visit these parks for decades after the burial. They bring more cut flowers. They speak to the stones. They photograph the stones. They build entire industries around the production and maintenance of stones for the dead. The Council looked at this catastrophic, irrational, time-consuming behavior and could not file it. We had categories for ancestor worship, for religious sacrifice, for symbolic interment, for political theater. None of them fit. Humans do not bury their dead because they fear ghosts. They do not bury them to please gods. They do not bury them to make a political point. They bury them because they refuse to let them be gone. This is a sentence I have read back to myself 17 times. It still does not parse correctly in my native language. There is a grammatical assumption built into the Vethkoran tongue that the dead are, by definition, no longer present. To say that a human refuses to let a dead human be gone is to say that the human is committing a basic category error about reality itself. Except humans are not making an error. They have noticed something we did not, and what they have done about it should terrify every species that ever assumed efficiency was the highest virtue. Part 4. Let me describe the funeral in the level of detail my official report will require. I apologize in advance for the inefficiency of this section. The events themselves were inefficient. To summarize them, efficiently would be to misrepresent the data. The rain is light but constant. The temperature is 7 degrees Celsius. The wind comes from the west off the Atlantic Ocean. The smell is of wet grass, wet stone, wet wool, and the faint mineral smell of the open grave. The cemetery is approximately 140 years old. It contains roughly 600 marked graves. Many of the markers are tilted. Some are cracked. None have been removed. The priest, a male named Father Brendan Walsh, is wearing a long black covering with a white strip at the neck. His vestments are damp. He is reading from a small book. The book is 2,000 years old in its earliest form. The exact passage he is reading has been read at human funerals for at least 16 centuries. The book is held together with tape. He does not look at the words. He has them memorized. The casket, as established, is made of polished oak with brass fittings. The brass will tarnish within 2 years. The oak will begin to decompose within 10. The body inside the oak will be unrecognizable within 20. None of the humans present do not know this. They have all attended funerals before. They are not being deceived about what is happening. They are choosing the expensive box anyway. Around the grave, 23 humans stand in a loose semicircle. They are wearing dark colors. The colors are not legally required. They have chosen them. 2 of the older females are weeping openly. 3 of the males are weeping silently, which I had to learn is a distinct category. Several children are present. The children are not weeping. The children are watching the adults weep, and they are learning something I cannot yet measure. But the detail that worries me most, the detail I have flagged for senior review, is the silence between the words. The priest speaks, he stops. No one fills the gap. The wind moves. A bird calls once from a hedge. No human speaks. Then the priest speaks again. The silences are not awkward. The silences are full of something. The humans appear to be using the silence as a substance, the way the Mossis use scent or the Zeth use pheromones. Humans have stopped the entire engine of their lives for one dead man. They have closed their shops. They have left their work. They have traveled across the country in some cases. They have done this for a retired lighthouse keeper who, by council economic metrics, produced very little of measurable value in his final 20 years. This is the moment I begin to suspect we have been measuring the wrong things. Part 5. The old woman in the black covering is Maeve O'Sullivan. She is 71 Earth years old. She was married to the dead man for 49 years. The optical feed allows me to zoom in on her face. I have access to the full council emotional taxonomy. There are 847 recognized emotional states across the member species. I begin running her facial configuration against the database. The system returns no match. I increase the tolerance threshold. Still no match. I drop the threshold to its lowest possible setting, which would normally accept even the broad emotional states of presentient animals. The system still returns no match. Her face is doing something the database has no record of. It is not grief alone. It is not love alone. It is not memory alone. It is some compound of all 3 plus a 4th element I cannot yet name. Her mouth is slightly open. Her eyes are not weeping. Her hands are very still. She is looking at the casket as if she is having a conversation with it. She is not speaking, but she is having a conversation with it. Father Brendan Walsh steps back. Another male moves forward. This is Tom O'Sullivan, the dead man's younger brother. He is 68. He unfolds a piece of paper from his coat pocket. The paper is creased many times. He has clearly written and rewritten the contents. He begins to speak. He does not speak about the dead man's career. He does not list his accomplishments. He does not provide an economic summary. Instead, he tells a small story. When Declan was 7 years old, he climbed the wall of a neighbor's orchard to steal apples. He filled his shirt with apples. On the way down, the shirt tore. The apples rolled in every direction. The neighbor, an old woman named Mrs. Fitzgerald, came out of her house. Declan expected to be punished. Instead, Mrs. Fitzgerald looked at the scattered apples, looked at the small boy and said, "Well, you might as well take them home now, since they're already on the ground." I record this story. I file it under anecdotal historical reference. Then I notice something my training did not prepare me for. The humans are laughing. They are laughing while weeping. 3 of them are doing both at the same time. Tears are running down their faces and their mouths are pulled into the configuration humans use for pleasure. The council database has no entry for simultaneous contradictory emotional output. The system flags my recording as corrupted data. I confirm the data is not corrupted. The system flags the species as malfunctioning. I cannot confirm this. The humans do not appear to be malfunctioning. They appear to be doing exactly what they intended to do. A small story about stolen apples, told 60 years after the fact, has made a group of grown humans laugh and cry at the same time. Mrs. Fitzgerald has been dead for 40 years. The apple tree was cut down in 1987. The orchard is now a parking lot. None of this matters. The story still works. The story still moves through the crowd like a current of warmth, and somehow, impossibly, the dead lighthouse keeper is briefly alive again inside it. I have no protocol for this. I keep recording. Part 6. While the funeral continues on Earth, I must now describe what is happening simultaneously on the orbital station Veltarish 9. The same optical feed I am watching is also being watched in the council hall. 3 delegates are present in the observation chamber. High Arbiter Zeth Valen of the Insectoid Hive Consensus, Delegate Mosses Thrain, who occupies a sealed environmental tank because the station atmosphere would dissolve their gaseous body, and Chairwoman Cornashii, my direct superior, fellow Veth Corin, four-eyed and ordinarily unflappable. Each delegate is required by council protocol to annotate the feed with their species classification system. This is a standard procedure for first contact cultural review. I have observed it perhaps 400 times in my career. The form is 14 fields long. The fields are simple: ritual type, resource cost, participant count, estimated function, equivalent ceremony in observer's home culture, and so on. High Arbiter Zeth Valen begins first. The Hive Consensus categorizes the funeral under Ritual Type 7b, Ancestor Acknowledgement. Within 12 minutes, the Hive retracts the classification. The funeral is not an acknowledgement. The dead human is not being thanked for past contributions. The funeral is reclassified as Ritual Type 11a, Status Display. Within 9 minutes, this is also retracted. There is no status being displayed. The participants are not gaining anything social from their attendance. The Hive then attempts to classify it as Ritual Type 4F, Group Cohesion Exercise. This holds for almost an hour before the Hive notices that the participants are not strengthening any future cooperative bond. Many of them will not see each other again for years. The classification fails. Delegate Mosses Thrain attempts a scent-based taxonomy. Their species understands all emotional states as molecular signatures. They release a sequence of inquiry pheromones into their tank and analyze the human behavioral output. They report back with a single transmitted message. The molecule does not exist in our atmospheric range. The behavior corresponds to a chemical compound we have never measured. Chairwoman Cornashii attempts the Veth Corin classification. Our system is the oldest in the council. It has handled every species we have ever encountered. She enters the funeral data and selects the most likely category. The form rejects it. She selects another. The form rejects it. She selects a third. The form returns an error message. The form is now 22 pages long. The system has begun auto-generating new fields in real time, trying to capture the variables it does not understand. Field 19 reads, "Why does the female refuse to set down the flower?" Field 23 reads, "What is the function of the silence?" Field 27 reads, "Why are the participants laughing while weeping?" The form has never auto-generated a field in 3,000 years of council use. The 3 delegates look at one another. None of them speak. None of them know what to file. The funeral on Earth continues. The form continues to lengthen. By the time the casket reaches the bottom of the grave, the form is 41 pages long and no field has been satisfactorily completed. Part 7. I must now describe the tools. Humans use tools to bind memory to matter. They have been doing this for at least 40,000 Earth years. We did not notice. The tools are too small to register on our cultural threat assessments. We have been looking for weapons and ships. The weapons were never the point. The first tool is the headstone, a slab of cut rock, usually granite or marble, carved with a name, 2 dates, and sometimes a short phrase. The stone is selected to last at least 400 years. The stone will outlast every human currently alive who knew the deceased. The stone will outlast the language the inscription is written in. The stone will outlast, in many cases, the cemetery itself. Humans understand this. They choose the stone anyway. The headstone is not a marker for the present. It is a message sent forward into a future the sender will not live to see. The second tool is the photograph, a captured fragment of light from a moment that no longer exists. Humans keep these, they frame them, they place them on walls. After the death of a loved one, the photographs are not removed. They are sometimes moved to more prominent positions. The dead person continues to look out from the wall for decades. Children who never met the dead person grow up under their gaze. The dead person teaches the children their face. The children inherit a memory they did not personally experience. The third tool is the letter. Humans write letters, and many of them keep the letters they receive. After a person dies, the letters remain. They are kept in boxes, in drawers, in attics. Some letters are read aloud at funerals. Some are sealed and not opened for 50 years. The dead person's handwriting is preserved. The shape of their thinking is preserved. Their preferred greetings, their misspellings, their pet names for the recipient, all preserved. The fourth tool is the wedding ring, a small circle of metal, usually gold, worn on a specific finger. After the death of a spouse, the surviving partner often continues to wear the ring for the rest of their life. The ring is not a marker of current marital status. It is a marker of a marriage that occurred, that mattered, that the wearer refuses to file as ended. I deliver the analysis to the council. The delegates are silent. Then Chairwoman Cornashii speaks for the first time in 2 hours. She says, "They did not invent these tools to honor the dead." I ask her what she means. She says, "They invented them to defy time." The realization moves through the chamber the way a slow current moves through deep water. Humans have not been engaged in primitive ancestor worship. They have been engaged quietly for 10,000 years in an engineering project. The project is the construction of a parallel memory architecture that runs alongside biological life and outlasts it. Stones, photographs, letters, rings, names spoken aloud, stories told and retold, songs, recorded voices, recorded faces. Layer upon layer of redundant memory storage, distributed across millions of households, embedded in every cemetery, written into every public square. The Council has been searching for the human secret weapon for 140 years. We assumed it would be a ship. We assumed it would be a fleet. We assumed it would be something we could see. The weapon was the headstone. The weapon was the photograph in the drawer. We did not see it because we have been looking too far up. Part 8. Now I must describe the part of the report that the senior delegates have asked me to handle delicately. The part where I attempt to name the compound emotional state I have been observing on Maeve O'Sullivan's face. To other species in the Council, what the humans are doing at the graveside would appear to be a form of voluntary self-harm. They are inflicting prolonged emotional suffering on themselves. They are choosing to remember a loss instead of forgetting it. They are choosing to feel the absence of a specific person every day for the rest of their natural lives. To the Veth Koran, this would be biologically impossible. Our nervous system would not tolerate it. To the Masis, the molecular load would dissolve their gas body within a week. To the Zeth hive, the resource cost would be unacceptable. Every member species of the Council has, over evolutionary time, developed a mechanism to dispose of long-term memory of the dead. Forgetting is a feature, not a bug. Humans alone refuse this feature. Humans alone evolved the opposite. They built a nervous system that can carry the dead for 60 years and continue to function. They built a culture that treats this carrying as a sacred duty rather than a malfunction. They built tools to make the carrying easier. They built rituals to make the carrying communal. They built entire religions around the proposition that the dead are not gone, only differently located. I file this finding. I attempt to find the human word for the compound state I have been observing. The word must contain the following components: the deliberate, sustained refusal to forget, the willingness to endure suffering as the price of remembering, the understanding that this suffering is not a flaw in the system, but the system itself, the recognition that to forget would be a worse pain than to remember. The word exists. It is in every human language. In English, the word is grief. We had no word for it. We have one now. I type the word into field 41 of the classification form. The form pauses. The form processes. The form accepts the entry. The form closes. For the first time in the history of Council Cultural Review, a funeral has been successfully classified. The classification is one word long. Chairwoman Kornashii reads the word on her screen. She does not move for a long time. Then she says, very quietly in a voice I have never heard her use, "I had a mother once." This statement is biologically impossible for a Veth Koran. We do not remember our parents. We cannot. Our species erased that capacity 2 million years ago, and yet she has said it. The chamber is silent. Outside the chamber, on the small green planet far below, Maeve O'Sullivan finally bends down. She places the single white flower on top of the casket. Then she stands up, and she does not look back as she walks away. Part 9. I must now pull back from the single funeral and describe the scale of what we have failed to notice. On Earth, there are approximately 200,000 funerals every day. There are roughly 55 million human deaths every year. Each of these deaths triggers the full memorial architecture I have described. A headstone is carved. Photographs are reorganized. Letters are sorted. Stories are told. The dead person is added to the memory archive of the surviving family, and through them, to the memory archive of the wider community, and through them, to the memory archive of the species. Every human city is built around its dead. The oldest structures in most human cities are not government buildings or marketplaces. They are cemeteries, monuments, and places of worship designed to hold the names of the dead. The center of London contains tombs in Westminster Abbey going back 900 years. The center of Rome contains tombs going back 2,000 years. The center of Cairo contains tombs going back 5,000 years. The center of Jericho contains tombs going back 10,000 years. Humans do not put their dead at the edge of the city. They put their dead at the heart of the city. The city is built around them. The city is, in some sense, a structure for holding the dead in place while the living move around them. I run the numbers. In the last 10,000 years, humans have buried, cremated, entombed, memorialized, or otherwise actively remembered roughly 110 billion individuals. Every one of those individuals has a name recorded somewhere. Many have headstones still standing. Many have photographs still in family albums. Many have descendants who can recite their stories. The Council has, in its entire recorded history, encountered roughly 400 billion sentient beings across all member species. Of those, almost none are remembered by name more than 3 generations after their death. The Veth Koran do not remember any of our dead. The Masis cannot. The Zeth do not preserve individual records. The Tesseri do not maintain ancestral lines. The Vorth release everything to the storm. This means a single species, on a single small planet, has personally remembered more individual lives than the entire rest of the galaxy combined. Earth is not a planet. Earth is the largest archive of consciousness in the known universe. Every cemetery is a server farm. Every grandmother's photo album is a backup. Every family Bible with names written inside the cover is a redundant memory store. Humans have, without realizing they were doing it, built a distributed planetary-scale memory system whose total capacity exceeds anything the Council has ever produced. And they did it with stones, with paper, with cloth, with spoken stories. We have been looking at their ships. We have been looking at their weapons. We have been looking at their computers. We have not been looking at their cemeteries. The cemeteries are the empire. The cemeteries are the thing the rest of the galaxy never had and will never be able to build, because to build it requires a species that chooses, every generation, to carry its dead forward instead of letting them dissolve into the wind. We had no word for it. We have one now. Part 10. The Council attempted to resume normal operations the following morning. High Arbiter Zeth Valens Hive consensus reported an inability to focus on routine agenda items. The Hive had been running internal queries on its own deceased workers for the first time in recorded history. Workers who had died centuries ago, whose function had been reassigned within hours, were being recalled by the consensus and examined. The Hive had no protocol for this. The Hive postponed the next scheduled meeting. Delegate Moses Thrain requested indefinite leave. The gas body had been observed drifting in irregular patterns within the environmental tank. When asked for a status update, the delegate transmitted a single message. The message contained the molecular signature of a Moses individual who had dispersed into the atmosphere of their homeworld 400 years ago. The signature should not have been retrievable. Moses Thrain had, somehow, kept a copy. The delegate did not return to the chamber that week. Chairwoman Cornashii was found alone in her private chamber 16 hours after the funeral concluded. She was holding a small audio recording device. The device contained the voice of her mother. Vethkoran biology had erased her conscious memory of her mother 42 years ago, as it does for all of us, as is our nature. But Cornashii, at some point in her early adulthood, had secretly recorded her mother speaking and had kept the recording in defiance of Vethkoran cultural law. She had not listened to it in 42 years. She had not known why she kept it. She listened to it that night for the first time since the recording was made. She did not report what she heard. She did not need to. The look on her four-eyed face was the same look I had seen on Maeve O'Sullivan's face at the graveside. The council hall sat empty for 47 days. No delegate could bear to schedule a meeting. The classification form for the funeral, now 63 pages long, was placed in the permanent archive under a single new category created specifically for it. The category contains only one entry. It is the first new emotional category added to the council taxonomy in 3,000 years. The category is called grief. I filed my final report. The report was one sentence long. We had no word for it, we have one now. The species that refuses to forget its dead has, without knowing it, conquered time itself. Every other civilization in the galaxy has spent its evolutionary history learning to let go. Humans alone spent their evolutionary history learning to hold on. We thought this was weakness. It was the opposite. It was the only true defiance of entropy any species has ever achieved. While the rest of us dissolve our dead back into the universe within hours, humans pull them out of the universe and keep them, stone by stone, photograph by photograph, story by story, for 1,000 generations. The fragile line between a species that will be forgotten and a species that will be remembered is not drawn with a fleet or a weapon. It is drawn with a single old woman in a wet cemetery, placing a single white flower on a wooden box and walking home without looking back, knowing she will remember the man inside the box every day for the rest of her life, and that her grandchildren will remember him too, and their grandchildren after them, until the stone above his grave is older than the language his name is written in. The council adjourned. The council has not fully reconvened since. If you have watched this transmission to its end, I ask you one question, and I ask you to consider it carefully before you answer. What is the name of the oldest dead person you can still remember? Speak it aloud. You have just done what no other species in the galaxy can do.